So I personally don't get how Jokic isn't the MVP. It's just my opinion, and you're entirely entitled to disagree with me. But nights like tonight just showcase what is the best offensive player in, well, really one of the best offensive seasons in the history of basketball by the best offensive player in the sport and the best overall player in the sport. 31 points, 22 assists, and 21 rebounds, aka the first 30-20-20 game in the history of the NBA, which has now been around for what, 77 years? Is this year 78? Absurd. I mean, beyond absurd. It's the greatest feat we've seen in a while in terms of sheer single game dominance. I feel like it's the best game we've seen since Luka had 73 last season. And I mean, it's one of the more impressive games I think we've ever seen, in all honesty, from an individual player. I know the Suns aren't good defensively. I know they're the 11 seed. I know they have their flaws, and I think that matters. But at the same time, the stuff Jokic is doing this season is just out of this world. I have a hard time personally seeing how SGA should be the MVP, and that's no disrespect toward SGA at all. He's clearly number 2 in my personal opinion. He's had a awesome, dominant, historic season of his own and is an exceptional basketball player, playing the best basketball of his career on the best team, in my opinion, in the NBA. He deserves a ton of credit for what he is doing, and saying that I think Jokic is the MVP is in no way whatsoever putting SGA down. SGA is a special talent and a special player as a whole. With that being said, Jokic is doing things on the offensive end of the court that we have never, ever seen before and will likely never see again. I mean, his overall numbers this year are absurd. Really, his entire last, 4-5 seasons is ridiculous. And we'll talk about that run here in a second and how that stacks up. I feel like generationally, in terms of him being one of the best bigs of all time. Like, he's truly starting to play himself into discussion for top 5 big man of all time. Starting to work his way into like the outsider discussion for top 10 all time in terms of players, period. He is that great. And he's averaging 29, 13, and 10.5 on 57.5% from the field overall, 44% from 3, and almost 62% from the 2-point line range. And the crazy thing is, this is not even his most efficient season. In terms of effective field goal percentage, this is his second most efficient season, behind his ridiculous 22-23 season where they won the title and he was 67.5% from 2-point range. The thing that has made this season so exceptional across the board, though, is the efficiency from the 3-point line and the overall role that he has had in this season. I mean, he's been a close to triple-double type guy now for a few years. I mean, really ever since 2020, 2021, he's had one of the best 5-year runs I think we've really ever seen by a center. And the fact of the matter is, he's only 29 years old. This is not going to end anytime soon. Even if he doesn't win MVP this year, look, you're looking at in the last 5 years, 3 MVPs, a ring, and 2 second places in the MVP. That's if he doesn't win it this year. If he does win it this year, you're looking at 4 MVPs in 5 years, 2 two-peats or repeat MVPs, and a championship. And again, they're certainly not out of the discussion whatsoever to win a title this year too. So I think that is also worth keeping in mind, is just because they are currently the 3 seed in the West and not perfect doesn't mean they don't have a serious chance to win the title. I mean, I think Denver's a tough matchup for anybody, because I think Jokic is a truly tough matchup for anybody, and it makes them absolutely terrifying, man. I would not want to play this Denver team in the playoffs, because you know that Jokic is just going to do it to your team. The ease with which he goes out there and has 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 assists every single night is absurd. He's doing things we have never, ever, ever seen before. There has never been a center with the skill set of a Nikola Jokic, ever, not once in the history of the sport of basketball. And the honest truth is, it's going to be a while, I think, before we see another player like him. And I just don't know how a player like that with that level of efficiency is in the MVP. That's my honest opinion. I just think he makes everybody around him better on the offensive end of the court at a ridiculously high level. Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon are really good contributors, but they have become great players with Nikola Jokic. Russell Westbrook is having the best season he has had in years and deserves credit for his acceptance of his role on this team. But I think a large part of why he's been so good is Nikola Jokic. I think a large part of why Jamal Murray is so good is the 2-man game with Nikola Jokic that takes a lot of the responsibility off of Jamal Murray offensively and makes his life easier as a scorer. And then Michael Porter Jr. having one of the most efficient and overall best seasons of his career too. It's the same story. Everyone around him benefits exponentially from what he does. He is a heliocentric player in terms of making plays with the ball in his hands, and yet he always makes the right play. Not always, but he is a near flawless playmaker in terms of his scoring, his playmaking, his decision making. It's unbelievable. I mean, in just the overtime, I think he had what, like 6 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. They outscored the Suns 24-16 in a 5-minute overtime. They scored 24 points. Just insane stuff. And you beat a resilient, pretty high effort Suns team tonight in a game that, look, the Suns have struggled, no doubt, but a game the Nuggets wanted to have, keeps them basically aligned with the Lakers, a game behind in the loss and the win column, or a game ahead in the win column, game behind the loss column. So they've played 2 more games. So LA does kind of still control their own destiny, but they got a real chance at a top 2 seed, and they are absolutely almost certainly at this point, barring major injury, not going to be at least a 3 seed. And here's the honest truth, y'all. Like, as great as Shea is, if you compare the numbers, I just don't personally think it's that close. And it's not taking away from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think his team winning more games overall is not enough of a reason, with how good Jokic has been and with how good the Nuggets have been, for him not to win the MVP. He's averaging 4 more points a game, which is awesome. And the Thunder are a historically great team, also awesome. Jokic is averaging almost 8 rebounds a game more, over 4 assists a game more, the same number of steals, by the way. Shea is touted as this incredible defender, and he is a high-level guard defender, but I think Jokic's decision-making and ability to create stops and create turnovers on the defensive end of the court is underrated. Now, Jokic is a bad rim-protecting center. He is, and that is his biggest flaw, is that he can be a limited rim protector and a limited defensive center in a lot of ways at times. But when you are shooting 57.5% from the field, 44% from 3, averaging 29, 13, and 10.5, you are the MVP. I don't see how this is a debate. This feels like last year with Luka versus Jokic, except more egregious if Jokic doesn't win it. Jokic will be a higher seed than Luka was last year. He will have better numbers than Luka did last year. It just, to me, becomes hard to see how Nikola Jokic isn't the MVP. And look, the Thunder are awesome. They got 11 losses all season. But the Nuggets, in their last, 42 games, are 30-12. They're not on a Thunder's type pace. No team is. Thunder will finish with 12, 13 more wins than the next best team in the league, I would think, at least in the Western Conference. But I just don't think wins in the regular season are the main defining factor on who should win the MVP. I think that Jokic is overall having the better season, and I think he is having, possibly, no exaggeration, the greatest offensive season in the history of the sport. If that doesn't win you MVP, then I feel like the award itself, as we know it, has become flawed, because that is about as MVP worthy as I think it gets. He is an extraordinary player doing extraordinary things on a night-to-night basis. And I just don't know how somebody doing basically the best player of the next, after LeBron, Curry, KD generation, the best player of this like most recent 5 years and probably the next 5 years is Nikola Jokic. How the best player having his best season of his career isn't the MVP doesn't make sense to me. I do not think that media fatigue should contribute to SJ winning an MVP, when, in my personal opinion, despite how great he is, he doesn't actually deserve to win it. So those are my opinions. You may not agree with me, but I wanted to share them. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.